I grew up in California. I was a pastor's daughter in the late 70s, and we lived about 10 houses down from the church. And so this was nice because my dad could walk to church in the morning, to his work, and it was really easy to be able to sleep in and get to the service on time on Sundays. But it also meant that our house was the one that people would gather to after the evening service, that people would come over. So my mom always had apple crisp in the freezer and fudge in the freezer. So if anyone wanted to come over, it was just like, bing, ready to go. But if we knew it was someone's birthday, then my mom would always bake a cake, and people would come over after church to celebrate. Well, a cake meant not just cake, but it meant frosting. And so my mom we didn't care what the, Betty Crocker box came out. She would make the cake, and while it was cooling, she would take out the imperial margarine and let that start to soften. And then she'd pull out the Sunbeam big, the stand-up mixer, that had the base in there and like the thing, the knob. Are you with me? And she'd pull that out from the corner, on the kitchen counter. And while the cake was getting cooled down, she would take that margarine and she'd put it in there. And then she'd, bring down the thing, and she'd go to, number 3 setting. And the butter the margarine would start to whip up. And then she'd take out a little McCormick, the little brown imitation vanilla, She'd pour in just a little bit of that, and then out would come the C&H confectioner sugar. And she would take the whole box, and she'd carefully put it in there as to not have any dust go up into the air. She'd do a little bit of milk, and then she'd start it on 1, you know what I mean? Then 2, 3, and my brothers and I would be like, it's happening. So eventually she would bring it up to 10, 11, 12 meringue setting. And that frosting would be whipping around, and we would be ready to go. So as soon as it was done, she'd take the rubber spatula, she'd clean off the edge, get the little goodness that didn't make it in, turn on one last time, and then it'd be ready. She'd frost it, and because she was the best mom ever, she would strategically not use all the frosting on the cake. So she would take out a little ball jar and put a little bit of the frosting in there and put it in the fridge so that throughout the week we could just just take a little. But my brother would get the rubber spatula, and then my other brother would get the bowl, which was already cleaned out with the rubber spatula, so who wanted that one anyway? And then I would get the beaters. And I would go, figure out how to get my tongue around each part of it so I could get every last little bit of that, when you're going like this and whatever. So one day I came home from school, and I thought, I would love some frosting. There was none in the refrigerator. So I thought, I am going to make my own. So I pulled out the thing, and I was about 10. I pulled it out. I had it all ready to go. Imperial margarine. I can't wait for it to soften, so I threw it up there. I went straight to 12, the margarine stick is whipping around, and then finally it succumbs to the motion. And then I poured in the vanilla, then I put in the confection. I still went straight to 12, so the powder went everywhere. I was I will dust it later. And so then I was putting a little splash of milk, and it was just mixing up. And I was looking at those beaters, and I thought, I wonder what would happen if I put my fingers in the beaters. It was a great thought, but I actually followed through on it. So I was I don't know. So I put my fingers in it and what? And the whole thing locked up. It jerked. Can you hear the machine? Can you hear the motor? Angry motor sound. So I pull out the plug. My fingers are like this. So I try, the little button to release. They are not releasing. They're just mad. So I pick up the whole apparatus, and I make my way over to the edge, and we had just got one of those trim line phones with the rotary in the handset, So I'm trying to call my parents at church, and that thing is just flip, but because I got the thing and the hands are in there, so I'm like, and it's just flipping, falling. So I took the walk of shame with the mixer and my hands down to church. All 10 houses down, and when I showed up with confectioner sugar all over and my hands all in the frosting, they all went running for the first aid kit. But I sat down and realized I had pulled off the triumph of the century because my germy, dirty, sweaty hands were all inside the frosting, and the entire bowl was mine.
And everybody.